What's up, Front Yard family? Thanks for tuning in to the Fantasy Outlook of Breece Hall. With me is my good friend Jim Coventry from RotoWire. Jim, let's go ahead and just jump right into it. What do you like about Breece Hall for this upcoming season?
So first of all, we always have to go a little bit down narrative street with rookies because we haven't seen them play at the NFL level. But we're going to give you our best shot and give you everything we know so you can make your best decision on draft day. So the first thing, we like that he increased his rushing efficiency each year in college. He started at 4.8 to 5.6 to 5.8. So we like that he learned a bit more as he progressed. His targets also, his first 2 years, 28 and 27, shot up to 44. So we love that 3-down skill set that we know he brings to the NFL. And of course, draft capital means a ton. Now, some teams waste draft capital, but the Jets, you got it to 37, pick 36, strong early second round pick. So they are supremely motivated to use him. Now, we love his testing times too. He ran a sub 4.40 and his explosiveness drills, ran 2 of them, 93rd percentile. He didn't test for agility, and I always like that, but nonetheless, he gets off the blocks quickly and he's super fast. And his size, right? 6'1", 220. So he has blazing scat back speed, but feature back size. Not a lot of running backs have that combination. And then a couple more things. So the Jets have worked on upgrading their offensive line over the last couple of years. Per PFF grading, they have 4 well above average run blockers, and only left tackle George Fant is a weak link. And you can always work around one weaker lineman. And I think they're going to play a lot of 12 personnel. That means 2 tight ends on the field, and they brought in C.J. Uzomah and Tyler Conklin. Both are very good blockers. And I believe even though 2 tight ends invites an extra linebacker on the field, I think with the level of blocking they have, the lanes will be there, but the screen game will also. So these are all positives that I have for Breece Hall, Jay. What do you think?
Yeah, you pretty much hit the nail on the head. One of the things I really like is what the Jets have invested in the offensive line. They brought in Tomlinson. They used a 3rd-round pick on Max Mitchell. Both tight ends are capable run blockers. They did lose Becton, but they replaced him with Dwayne Brown. So I think that's, not necessarily a 1-for-1, but it's not going to be as big of a drop-off if they just got rid of him, just lost Becton to the injury. And there is something to be said about trading up for him. Teams don't make that move if they're not planning on using the player. We've seen the past few seasons, guys go in this range have been very productive fantasy running backs. Jonathan Taylor, Nick Chubb, those guys. I'm not saying that Breece Hall is going to be that quality, but there has to be something said for the first running back going off the board, making that aggressive of a move to go get a guy like that. And like you said, he did get it done in college. He had a 95th percentile college dominator rating. 98th percentile in speed score, 94th in burst. The guy is a monster on the field. He had the most consecutive games in NCAA history with a touchdown, 24 games in a row. I found this really interesting. He scored a touchdown in every single one of his sophomore and junior season games. Like that says a lot right there. I think even with Michael Carter on the team, he should step into a sizable workload, which I think keeps his floor very high. And if he is able to separate from Michael Carter, work on his pass protection and get in on those passing downs, I could see him finishing, everything would have to break right, but it's within the realm of possibility for him to finish as an RB1 on the season. Not the RB1, a RB1, just to be clear.
So we get to some negatives, Jay. And again, it's narrative based and it ties into some of our positives as well. Even though they did trade up to get Hall, look, Michael Carter was very good last year. If we look at his full season numbers, not quite the same. He had a shoulder injury early in the season. He also started out slowly. He really picked up steam as the season went on. And after the injury, I thought the one thing that we dogged him on was his drop rate. But as I watch all the film, and I felt the quarterback play had a lot to do with that. There were passes that were a little bit behind him, credited his drops. I just felt like it might not be much better this year, but I don't think it was Carter is a drop machine. I think he's an excellent receiver. And a lot of running backs split work in the NFL. It's very rare that you see somebody with 80, 90% of the touches. It rarely happens. And if Carter's going to have a role, he seems better equipped to be the receiving complement than the rushing complement, because Breece Hall, in my mind, should be a better runner. And so if Breece Hall also doesn't explode onto the scene, it's possible they ease him in. They want to use him, but in year one, if he's not quite there, it could be a little more of a split than we might like. Not saying it will be, but there's a potential. Now, also remember the coaching staff. Michael Carter looked good, but he was even ceding work to Tevin Coleman and Ty Johnson last year. I didn't get that. Tevin Coleman, he had his day like 2 decades ago. I know it wasn't 2 decades ago.
It feels that way, though.
Yes. And yet he was getting significant work.
Yeah.
And I know Carter, wasn't a 107th pick investment. It was not as high as Hall, but they didn't need to spell him, and they did. And so that worries me. And like I said earlier, there was some investment in Carter. The 107th pick isn't nothing. So they liked him, and they clearly liked him last year. They think Hall's better. And so other than that, the negative with any rookie is the unknown. We expect to acclimate, but it's never a lock. So there's always that grain of uncertainty.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm with you. The potential timeshare with Carter is a concern. There's no doubt that Carter is going to be on the field. And one thing that we were talking about earlier, we don't know, Breece Hall needs to improve his pass protection. So not only is Michael Carter a capable pass catcher, he's solid in pass protection as well. So, he goes out, Breece Hall goes out there and struggles. That's just one more way that Carter could see more time on the field. And even though the Jets offense is exciting with the weapons that they've added, it's still a huge question mark. Last year, they were 8th worst in total yardage. They were the 5th worst in total points scored. It's sexy to see these names, the Garrett Wilsons, the Elijah Moores, Breece Hall, but Zach Wilson is still a huge question mark. One, he's injured. 2, we don't know if he's ever going to live up to, the 2nd overall pick. Is it going to be Joe Flacco? Is it going to be, what's the other guy's name?
Mike White.
Mike White, that's right, the legend of Mike White. So we don't know what this offense is going to do. And while, I'm not, some people are afraid to draft fantasy assets on bad offenses. I'm not, but there has to be some level of production in order to put them in the spots to score those touchdowns, to be on the field, to be able to get that production. So I'm a little concerned with the Jets offense. I think that he should be able to overcome it with the volume, even if the offense isn't up to snuff, but it's something that we definitely have to be concerned about. And we'll jump into the name game. And basically what that is I've got 5 names that are going currently around Breece Hall's ADP. He's got an ADP of running back 23, which I love for Breece Hall. I got 5 names. We're basically I'm going to say either or, and you tell me, you're on the clock, which guy you're taking. First one up, we're going to go with Josh Jacobs or Breece Hall.
Breece Hall, I don't even know that Josh Jacobs is going to lead his backfield mates in touches.
I'm with you 100%. Breece Hall, I think he's got a better, higher floor, higher ceiling. It's no question for me. The quad father himself, A.J. Dillon or Breece Hall.
This one is super close, and I bet if I had 10 drafts in the same spot, I'd probably take 5 and 5. I'm going to give Breece Hall the slight edge because I think ultimately, as good as Dillon is, I think his upside is a little bit capped, and I think with Hall, there could be significant upside beyond what Dillon has.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with you. I also feel like Dillon has the lower floor as well. If Aaron Jones does really become that safety blanket, we've seen with Devontae Adams not on the field that Aaron Jones has basically become Aaron Rodgers' wide receiver 1. So there is a world, I don't think it's going to happen, but there is a world where A.J. Dillon really just gets not shoved to the side, but it's more of a 60-40, 65-35 versus the 50-50 that people are expecting. So Breece Hall for me as well. Now, this one is extremely, extremely tough for me. I love both of these guys. I'm in 2 slow drafts right now, and I made this pick, and one draft I picked one guy, and one draft I picked the other guy. Yes. So guy we're talking about is Travis Etienne or Breece Hall.
Jay, they both have the same limitation that if they're not great in pass pro, they both have another running back on the team that could do that. And they both project to be the early down runners, and they're different types of backs. Overall, I think Breece Hall has a better offensive line, more potential weapons to spread the field if they need to do that. So I'm going to slightly by an eyelash take Breece Hall there.
I'm going to go Travis Etienne simply for the sake of argument. Like I said, I literally this week in 2 different drafts, one went Etienne, one Hall. I think they both have similar floors, similar upsides. Honestly, flip a coin between these two. Next one up is Elijah Mitchell or Breece Hall.
Anybody who's heard me chirp this offseason, I am all in on Elijah Mitchell. With Trey Lance at quarterback, the defenses are going to be terrified of his running ability. Last year at Jimmy G, Elijah Mitchell was getting hit by linebackers. Those linebackers are going to be on their heels this year. Those 6 and 7 yard runs are going to be 10 and 12 yard runs with a more explosive ability for more. I know he was hurt last year, but they're even getting him in on third downs this year. Kyle Shanahan loves him. Eli Mitchell easily for me.
I'm going to go Breece Hall here. It's very close, but I don't trust Kyle Shanahan, the whole Shanahanigans. Now, I know it's always people talk about a committee. Well, I don't think that's going to be the case because that's been disproven. That's not necessarily the case. He does love to go with one guy, but he's not afraid to switch it up and go to somebody else if they're not performing. I was one of those that's not necessarily sold on Elijah Mitchell. I could easily see where, if Shanahan sticks with him, is the guy. Elijah Mitchell, where he's going, could be a league winner, especially around this ADP. But for me, I'm not necessarily sold on Mitchell. So for that reason, I'm going to go Breece Hall. Next one up, the last one we're going to do tonight is J.K. Dobbins or Breece Hall.
I'm going to go with Breece Hall here. J.K. Dobbins is not 100% healthy right now. Lamar doesn't throw to his backs. And I know Gus Edwards is out for at least the first 4 weeks. I love Dobbins' potential for volume. But if he's not 100% now, I'm going to give me the healthy guy.
Yeah, and not only that, what you have to worry about Lamar Jackson stealing red zone touchdowns. This isn't granted, this is one of the most prolific rushing offenses in the entire NFL, but they're not afraid to, they are a true committee backfield, including the quarterback. So there's talk Mike Davis might get some run, who I think he's not somebody I'm interested in fantasy, but I could see him stealing some touchdowns. So J.K. Dobbins, the talent is there. If he had a backfield to himself, he could easily be a top 10 back, but he doesn't. He's going to be sharing the touches. So for that reason, I'm going to go Breece Hall. That's pretty much it for the fantasy outlook for Breece Hall. Anything else you'd like to add, Jim?
No, again, Breece Hall is that player because of the unknown. His ADP is depressed because of that. So if you believe in Breece Hall, it is the time to act because the rookies have that potential ability, especially with his skill set, to blow the roof off it. So he could be a league winner for you.
Absolutely. At that ADP, RB23, I feel like he's being drafted at his floor. Even if it is a close to 50-50 split, I think that he could easily return value there. And if he does start to get that 60-40, 65-35, he could be a league winner.
Yes.
That's going to be it for the fantasy outlook for Breece Hall. Make sure you give the video a like. Any questions, drop them in the comments, and make sure you subscribe to Front Yard Fantasy on YouTube.